Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. Something we've been seeing a lot in the last couple years is consolidation within the game industry. There's been a lot of acquisitions with key publishers such as Xbox, THQ Nordic, PlayStation's been on the lookout, and even Nintendo joined in on all the fun last month, buying out the Luigi's Mansion studio Next Level Games. Well, it looks like there's another publisher quietly making huge acquisitions and further cementing themselves as a real threat. Yeah, Epic Games is on the rise, and we're going to talk about that today. Also, PlayStation made the news with their first-party studios continuing to impress. They had a pretty good lineup of games last year, and they are being heavily rewarded right now, and we'll go over all of that as well. And actually, for today, let's start off with a new game by the legendary studio Mistwalker. Mistwalker's upcoming game Fantasian got some new trailers today, and it looks absolutely superb. Now, if you don't know what this game is or why you should be excited, you need to know. Mistwalker is the studio led by the father of Final Fantasy, Hironobu Sakaguchi. Since creating his own studio Mistwalker, they've went on to work on beloved JRPGs such as Blue Dragon, The Last Story, and the ever-amazing Lost Odyssey. Now, I do think Lost Odyssey is an all-time great JRPG that deserves way more attention than what it gets. It plays very similar to Final Fantasy, and I would highly recommend this game if you haven't played it already. Now, with that said, Fantasian is their next game, and it does look really good. You can once again see the inspiration from the Final Fantasy franchise, and in fact, Hironobu Sakaguchi says it's inspired by Final Fantasy VI. Yeah, that's already very exciting, and one of the first things I noticed in this game is the character's walk animation is very similar to Lost Odyssey. So this looks like your old school JRPGs made by the father of Final Fantasy, and it's checking all of the right boxes. Even the scenery in this game is stunning, because what they did is that they're actually dioramas that they built themselves. That's a really cool take on game development. I haven't seen that done before, but I think it looks, just from the trailers in this game, I think it looks really good. There is one catch though. Fantasian is currently set up to be an Apple Arcade exclusive. So unless you have an Apple device, you'll unfortunately miss out on Fantasian for the time being, but I'm really hoping this one comes to other platforms in the future. In the past, we have seen some Apple Arcade exclusives like Oceanhorn Tune go over to the Nintendo Switch, and hopefully Fantasian will be one of those timed exclusives. I'm definitely crossing my fingers for that because I really am a big fan of Mistwalker and their games. Next up, we got a new game reveal today, and fans of the Alien franchise might like this one. Alien's Fireteam has officially been announced with a new gameplay trailer. This just kinda came out of nowhere, and it's supposed to be a 3-player co-op game set in the Alien universe. This very much fits the sequel to the original movie, being more of an action game than a horror game. This could be a lot of fun if you do like co-op games like this though. You'll be able to choose one of 5 classes, including Gunner, Recon, Doc, Demolition, and Technician. All very straightforward, and the good news here is that you're not going to have to wait too long before you can play this game yourself. Barring any kind of delays, it's set to release for the Xbox Series, Xbox One, PS5, PS4, and PC sometime this summer. Yeah, it's only a few short months away. For me, I'm still waiting for Alien Isolation though. Now that game was awesome, and I keep hoping we get a sequel for that. I like Alien more as a horror IP than action myself, but again, Fireteam might be a lot of fun with a friend. Moving on, we got some news for the next Battlefield and Need for Speed. That's a weird combination of news, but what's happening here is that the next Need for Speed game will be getting a delay, as EA has decided to shift Criterion over to DICE to help finish up with the next Battlefield that's slated to release later this year. Now that doesn't mean Criterion will work with DICE forever on Battlefield, but rather this is a temporary thing to get Battlefield in the hands of fans this year, and then Criterion will resume work on Need for Speed in 2022. This does make a lot of sense considering how big the Battlefield franchise is. Battlefield is absolutely massive, and I fully expect this to be a big showcase for the Xbox Series X and PS5 this year when it does release. A game like this takes a lot of resources, and it seems Electronic Arts wants to release that game this year, and in order to ship while maintaining quality rather than just rushing it out or overworking their staff, they're getting some help from Criterion. Again, Battlefield is a big project, and this should make it a little bit easier to ship a game as massive as Battlefield in 2021. It's being reported that DICE is fatigued, and this could help them out, and I think that's a good decision. I know some racing fans will be a little disappointed with this delay though. This is now the second big racing game to get delayed in the last couple weeks. Gran Turismo 7 was also delayed here recently, but EA is reassuring fans that they do have F1 planned for this year, if that helps. In other news, as we all know, PlayStation is heavily praised for their first-party exclusives. They are very well known for their first-party output, as they should be. They really do make some excellent games, and they were heavily rewarded for last year's releases. The Bafta nominations are now up, and PlayStation ended up accounting for 38% of all nominations, with The Last of Us Part 2 leading the charge with a new record of 13 total nominations. Now, I know this particular game is very divisive to say the least, and it may not necessarily be my favorite game from last year, but critics seem to absolutely adore this game. It has been raking in the awards over the last few months, and it continues with the BAFTA awards here. Agree with it or not, they have been breaking records left and right with all of these Game of the Year awards from various websites. Now for me personally, I had to ask myself if it was just an impressive game, or was it really that good? I mean, the animations and attention to detail in this game is second to none. It really is amazing in that regard. Now the story though is where fans get a little bit more heated. For me personally, I did enjoy the first game more, but there is a lot of fans that I've seen love Part 2, and well, I'm happy for you all who did really enjoy The Last of Us Part 2. I myself have nothing against this game, I just can't forgive that one character that did something awful at the beginning of the game. Now to be fair, we can say characters from the first game did terrible things too, so there is that debate on innocence. But yeah, that's not all the nominations though, as The Last of Us Part 2 is followed up by Ghost of Tsushima with 10 BAFTA nominations, Miles Morales sits at 7, Dreams also got 7, and last but not least, Sackboy with 4. So yeah, PlayStation is really showing their first-party power with all of these nominations, and what's strange to me is that I think that their best game last year is absent from this list of having multiple nominations. The Demon's Souls remake for the PS5. Somehow it only got 1 for technical achievement. Now maybe that's because it's a remake and didn't get more nominations, but that's the one that really blew me away personally. For anybody who picks up the PS5, get that game. You'll thank me later. Ghost of Tsushima was also really good though. It was extremely impressive from a visual standpoint, and the combat is a lot of fun as well. Now I will say this, I am a little tired of some of these critics snubbing Ori and the Will-O-Wisps. That game is an all-time great within its respected genre, so I would have liked to have seen it get more nominations than what it currently has. Either way, let me know what you think of these nominations. Do you agree with them or not? Let me know in the comments below. Now while we're on the topic of PlayStation though, I have a quick update on Horizon Forbidden West. It seems Horizon Forbidden West is still slated to release sometime in late 2021. This is coming from a PlayStation 5 advertisement and was later shared revealing a vague late 2021 release. If there was any concern at all that this was going to miss 2021, this further shows it's coming, and this lines up with what PlayStation boss Jim Ryan suggested recently that it was planned for 2021. I'm a little surprised we haven't seen more on this game yet though. Truthfully, I was expecting to see this game last week on State of Play, but it looks like Sony's going to hold off until it's closer to release. This will probably be their biggest exclusive this year, unless they have some kind of big surprise, which, I mean, maybe they do. All I know is I'm ready to see this game though. I know it's a cross-platform game being on both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, but I don't think that's going to hold back the PS5 at all. Guerrilla Games are technical geniuses, and I think this will look amazing on the PS5 when they do show it. Now we got a big acquisition to talk about today, and yeah, this is coming from Epic Games. Back in 2019, they ended up grabbing the Rocket League studio Psyonix, and that was quietly one of the biggest acquisitions in recent years. But it doesn't look like Epic Games is finished quite yet. They've now grabbed the Fall Guys studio Mediatonic, and this is really a huge acquisition. I know this game has died down a bit since it released last summer, but this was one of the biggest releases last year, and it still hasn't reached every platform yet. We could see that community grow throughout the year as it releases on platforms like the Nintendo Switch and Xbox. We could see some growth there, but we do need to take a look at the bigger picture here. What is Epic Games up to, and what's their end goal? They have really put a lot of effort into making the Epic Games Store a legitimate platform on PC. Not only is Epic Games a big studio themselves, developing games like Gears of War, Unreal Tournament, and the phenomenon that is Fortnite, but they've also been grabbing exclusive after exclusive for the Epic Games Store. A lot of PC fans really don't like this, but Epic Games has had a lot of success doing it that way. They've also been giving away free games to entice consumers to join the Epic Games Store, but in special cases like this, they're flat out acquiring studios, and notable studios on top of that. You're once again seeing how committed they are in getting more PC games on their platform. They now have Fortnite, Rocket League, and Fall Guys. All three of these have a few things in common too. All three use seasonal content to monetize their games. This kind of shows you the type of games Epic Games are looking for, and they are massively popular games too. What does this mean for the Steam platform though? Well, when Epic Games bought Psyonix, they did transition that from Steam to the Epic Games Store, but if you already bought it on Steam, you would keep it. So far though, they say that Fall Guys will continue to be purchasable on Steam. This shouldn't affect consoles either, unless in the future, Epic Games decides to make their own console. And you know what? I mean, you never really know with Epic Games. They might try to do something like that one day. Probably not, but yeah, this is another big acquisition from Epic Games. On to the poll of the day though. We found out yesterday that Square Enix has teamed up with Forever Entertainment to develop multiple remakes, and that is incredibly exciting. Forever Entertainment, of course, already has experience working on remakes, and Square Enix has a ton of games they could bring back. I immediately started to think about all of the possibilities, and it really seems endless. I wanted to ask you all though on what you wanted their next remake to be, and the overwhelming majority of you chose Chrono Trigger, which is exactly what I want to see them bring back. This game is consistently believed to be one of the best JRPGs ever made, and it deserves to come back. We've seen Square Enix do that with Final Fantasy VII and Trials of Mana, and Chrono Trigger deserves to come back as well. They could design it similar to modern Dragon Quest games, give it voice acting, and just go all out on this game. That would be really cool to see, but there are some other cool ideas. I think Parasite Eve would be a cool remake and has a lot of potential with modern audiences. I really like Final Fantasy VIII myself, and if that somehow got the Final Fantasy VII treatment, I would be thrilled about that. Final Fantasy VI and 9 would be awesome as well. I saw a lot of you in the comments really want that 9 remake, and I'd be okay with that. Some of you all even mentioned some Tomb Raider remakes. I didn't really originally think about that, but that's a really good idea as well. Then you have Vagrant Story, and that's a game that would be pretty cool to see. You even have lesser known games such as Terranigma, and there's just so many games that Square Enix has that they could bring back. But you all voted for Chrono Trigger, and I am more than okay with that. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.